Coming off the backside of last week's colonoscopy. Going in for a flu shot, and then tomorrow having a nuclear stress test. I decided I needed a break in the action, something that would be light. And so here I am. There are other people who will talk to you in depth about Allan and their relationship with him. I'd like to talk just a little bit about mine. I first met Allan not in December of 1973. I didn't know he existed until the annual meeting of the bar in 1974 when we were at the Landmark at Myrtle Beach, and it went into bankruptcy while they were there. I never blamed Allan for that, but it was an ominous beginning for him. I saw Allan grow and develop in his position as the assistant, it wasn't assistant then, it was the executive secretary of the Bar Association, to a time when everyone knew he was the person they wanted to lead us into the latter part of the century, especially when we started talking about creating sections. Many people thought that was going to be a very divisive thing. It actually has been, in my opinion, the salvation of the Bar Association. You've got a lot of people involved in a lot of different activities. He is well known throughout bar exec circles and throughout the world, throughout this country. And when I served as president of the Bar Association, there were a lot of tense moments and things, but Allan was always there to guide you the right way. And although I've never thanked you for that, Allan, I'll do it now. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, someone with whom I've had more than a passing acquaintance. He is one of the many former law partners I have. I think there might be as many as 100 of you out there right now. But unlike some of them, AP and I have remained friends. He is, of course, most distinguished by the fact that he is a past president of the American Bar Association, being only the second North Carolinian to hold that high position. I give you my friend, AP Carlton.
Thank you, John. Except for the colonoscopy, I'll incorporate by reference all of John's remarks. Well, my friend Allan Head. Well, before we get to that, first a tribute to a person I knew long before I knew Allan, that I used to double date with in high school, and who, from the moment I first heard about Allan, and believe me, I heard a lot from her, has been by his side. Now, yes, I've known Allan a lot longer than he's known me. It started in the year 1965 at the KA House at North Carolina State University. I was with a friend visiting with his older brother. It was our first weekend as big boys in college, and lo and behold, I turn around, and it's the Wake Forest weekend. I turn around, and standing there in the entryway of the KA House is Patty Reed. And I say, by the way, in my preoccupied moments, I'm still given to introduce her as Patty Reed, so I'll apologize to her in advance if I do that again. But I said, Patty, how's it going? Well, 20 minutes later, I knew Allan Head. And it was really a great thing. And sure enough, later in the evening, I met the great man. But she has defined him in my mind and her in a mutual way, quite appropriate for people who have been married 37 years and who are true partners and happily have been so for all that time. But Patty Reed Head, who I still introduce differently from time to time, is my favorite publicly elected official. I used to say my favorite politician, till I was very politely but very firmly corrected. But it is absolutely impossible for me to talk about one without talking about the other. So, Patty, here's to you. Congratulations for all you've done for all of us, along with Allan. Thank you. Well, what can I say about Allan? Well, a lot. And, there are no grays with Allan except his hair. But I knew him when he didn't have gray hair. And as sharply defined as he is, he forces us to deal with distinctions, such as the difference between tight and cheap. And you know what I mean. Do you know that Allan is actually, I was glad to hear John Beard had a cell phone now, because he went a long time on that one, but Allan Head is actually the only lawyer I know that still does not have a cell phone. And do you also know that the bar staff restricts his travel now because they do not want him to get beyond the point at which the string is not long enough to attach to the 2 tin cans? And yes, when the bar went to dress casual during the week, Allan immediately began to display and continued to display to this day his extensive collection of logo embroidered golf wear, all of which surprisingly bear the prominent logos of resorts frequented by the North Carolina Bar Association, and for which, once again, according to staff, there are no known receipts of record. Allan, of course, is also known for his great sense of humor. Some might a distinguished sense of humor. Some might use another adjective or two. Now hear this, and I've heard it about a dozen times. Allan's number one top tip in the hit parade of tips on how to give a speech as a bar leader is, don't tell jokes. Now, Allan's latest and greatest idea as a prankster, which he is, was, and to demonstrate his clear distinction between earnest and being sincere, two of his more notable qualities. It played out recently at the meeting of the Southern Conference of Bar Presidents, a group which I might add is not easily described as collectively gullible. But here was Allan, earnestly observed, handing out at least a half a dozen allegedly personally autographed recent copies of the edition of North Carolina Lawyer with our friend, our cover boy, John Edwards, on the cover. Allan, I want you to know that today several Secret Service agents presented them at my office and delivered to me under seal a certified handwriting analysis, together with your very own John Edwards' personally autographed copy of the most recent edition of North Carolina Lawyer, including a nice thank you note from Elizabeth Edwards and a confidential communication from the Carrie Edwards campaign, which I have instructions to hand deliver to you before it self-destructs on Election Day, addressed to our North Carolina mole. Well, what can I say about Allan? He is my friend. He is always there when you need him. And he's the most dedicated disciple I know of the do-right rule. In thinking about what I might say about him, I thought to myself, surely somewhere along the way somebody had asked me to recommend him in writing for some great honor or some nomination or something. But I, after searching my feeble brain, John Beard, I could not recollect ever having to do that, but thought what I would say if I were asked, and yes, how I would honor Allan. So I went ahead and I wrote the following letter. To whom it may concern, or to the committee, this letter is written in support of Allan B. Head's nomination, selection, or whatever. It has been my great privilege in life to have known Allan for over 30 years and to have been closely associated with him over that period of time, both personally and professionally. Incidentally, I'm a high school friend of his wife, Patty, and first met Allan some 38 years ago while in college. I first encountered him professionally as a new lawyer in 1975, a year or so after he became the Assistant Executive Director of the North Carolina Bar Association, and 7 years before he became the Executive Director of that association. Our professional careers have paralleled each other's. I have served as a member of his Board of Governors, a committee chair, and an officer in the association. My service in that association directly led to my involvement in the American Bar Association. At each step of my career as a practicing lawyer and as a participant member of the North Carolina Bar Association, it has been my pleasure to closely work with Allan. His dedication to his organization, his commitment to his profession, and his accomplishments in growing the NCBA from a small state voluntary bar association to the premier state bar association in America today are unmatched and unparalleled. Personally, over the years, I have also observed and participated with Allan in his activities as a community and civic leader. As president of the ABA, I appointed him as chair of the ABA Standing Committee on Bar Activities, the ABA's critically acclaimed and key committee, which has the mission of supporting over 300 state and local bar associations throughout America. As he comes out of that office, he will become president of the National Association of Bar Executives. In addition, over the years, I have witnessed his national leadership as a director of the Wise of America and in our community through various leadership associations in church and civic life alike. I like to think I have been a close friend of his and Patty's and have observed him as well as a role model for any community leader, any father, and any husband. Without knowing any other potential candidates you might have for the honor, I can unhesitatingly recommend Allan to you because I cannot think of anyone better suited for such an honor in any organization. I simply cannot say enough good things about him. Allan, thank you. Thank you.
Allan's entire family could not be here this evening, but I would like to recognize at this time two very close members of his family. Daryl, stand up, his son. Daryl, like his father, is a devotee of the YMCA, but unlike his father, he's managed to make a paying job out of it. And Allan's, as he always says, his favorite mother-in-law, Ruth Reed, Patty's mother. In reading over some of the materials given to me about Allan's past, I was shocked to learn that he had apparently set a hurdles record at Wake Forest that had been unbroken for a long time. It occurred to me that they must have been extremely low hurdles. Allan has never given up running. He does it to keep his weight down. And his favorite running buddy is Gray Hutchinson. He and Allan, I think, have been running together since Allan's hair was still dark, and Gray actually had a full head of it. I'll ask Allan to come up, Gray to come up now and make his remarks.
I'm going to make Terry responsible for the props. These are actually designed to make Allan worry a little bit. I am glad to be here tonight to salute Allan, and I think Terry conveyed that this was going to be a toast to Allan. He conveyed to Red and AP and I that this was a roast rather than a toast. I have known Allan and had the good fortune to know him for over 30 years. We actually met in the spring of 1974, very appropriately at the Central YMCA. When he was coming in from a solo run and I was going out from one, we very quickly decided that it would be a whole lot more fun to run together. Along the way, we picked up Walt Sheffield, probably 5 years into it. So Walt's been running with us for probably 25 years. And the three of us have been meeting at the Y or at the Bar Center ever since to work out. I've been told I can't really talk about Allan's good qualities, but I am going to touch on those, but also talk about some of the really good Allan stories. And many of you have been free in sharing those with me, the ones that I've somehow missed along the way. Those stories have to start with our runs. Those, for many years, were really the highlight of our work weeks and produced a lot of memories. In the early years, we would run through the state campus from the Y and along Western Boulevard. And as we passed, there used to be farmers out on the road on Western Boulevard. And as we passed, Allan would be going by negotiating the price of watermelons with him. And invariably, Allan got 2 watermelons for the price of 1. We would then go back afterwards, after we dressed and were on our way back to work. We would go back, pay for the watermelons. I am not as good a negotiator as Allan, so I only got 1 watermelon. But here is a watermelon. Allan is the master of twofers. That is, if you can do one thing at one time, why wouldn't you do 2 things at the same time? In response to any of you saying, let's go to lunch and talk over this matter or that matter, Allan would say, well, why don't we run and talk about that? Many bar presidents quickly learned that bringing their workout clothes with them was the best way to accomplish something with Allan. Presidents that come to mind are John Hayworth, Ace Walker, Larry McDivitt. Noticeably, John Beard was not in that group. I do not recall, unless I had a senior moment, that John ever went out and ran with us. When the Bar Center moved from Wade Avenue out to Cary, we started running at the Bar Center, which has shower facilities. Allan will even provide towels and laundry them for you. Some people, of course, get better towels than others. The bar presidents get nice, fluffy, black and gold towels. He reserves the best towels, though, for his Carolina friends, and I do have one of those. This is the towel I get. Allan, please hold this and wave this at the appropriate moment. On a serious note, Allan is very dedicated to serving the community. As AP noted, he's been a great leader for the Bar Association, its volunteers and staff, and has made the North Carolina Bar Association the envy of others across the country. In addition, he served, I guess, as secretary or secretary-treasurer of the Wake County Bar for years. I can remember when he said, well, I'm going to do this. I'd like to do this for a year or 2, and I think that was 1980. And you've been doing it a year or 2 on a rolling 2-year basis. George Hearn did want me to note something, that it was he, not Allan, who got me to join the Wake County Bar recently. I know you didn't know that. That George was much more persuasive than Allan in doing that. So after probably a 20-year absence, I'm glad to be back. Allan has been a leader in the church, especially with the youth, serving with Patty as high school advisors for 9 or 10 years. In addition, he's been has gone on the Appalachia Service Project with members of our church for 13 years straight, and has been a great influence on both kids and adults. He has a special love for the YMCA. His activities have included membership on the local and national boards, as well as serving as the president of the YMCA of the Triangle. He's been active with his children in Indian Guides and Indian Princesses, and has been known far and wide as Wise Wolf. While the Indian theme has somewhat been de-emphasized in recent years, it's certainly been a very important centerpiece of that very important program. Wise Wolf, I don't have the headdress you had when you were chief of the Arapaho Nation, but I am going to demote you to a brave and require you to wear this as long as I'm talking. You look really good. That service orientation shows up in everything Allan does, including small things like returning phone calls at the end of every day. He once recounted the time when he was doing just that, reached an attorney's administrative assistant sometime after 6 o'clock at night. Finding that they were the only ones at work, he suggested, somewhat with a twinkle in his eye, that perhaps she ought to note that he had returned the call at 8 p.m. so that they both would get credit for working late that night. Allan is very detail-oriented, which is very unusual for such a people person. Walt Sheffield recalls when Walt worked for the Bar Association, many seminars, and actually I've been told he still does this to this day, where he would make sure everything was just right, down to the right number of chairs in the room. If 100 people were expected for a seminar, he would actually put out 90 chairs. If there were a few no-shows, it looked like there was a full house, and if everybody showed up, it looked like it was an overflow crowd. He didn't lose either way. And my understanding from staff is he still does that today. He is also very efficient and can get more things done in one day than any person I know. That, however, can get him in trouble at times. I can remember a time when he was running out of the office to squeeze in yet another run when Kim Vaughn called out that the association president, I'm sure it wasn't John, was on the phone. Allan was determined he was going to get that run, knew it wasn't an emergency, and asked Patty to say, well, he'd be tied up for a minute and would call him back right after lunch. Well, during the run, Allan admitted that he felt somewhat guilty about that. So unbeknownst to Allan, I called Kim, and when Allan showed back up, Kim came running out of the office saying, "The president's still on the line waiting for you." It's one of the few times I've ever seen Allan speechless. Allan loves sports, and he loves young people. When David and Darrell were at Broughton, he was part of the crew that moved the chains up and down the football field. After they left, he became the on-field announcer and still does that to this day. For some unknown reason, he loves the Demon Deacons. For 2 or 3 years, he was the on-field announcer for the Wake Forest home games. A little-known fact that until John disclosed it was that Allan was a hurdler. One thing, Allan, that Gail specifically asked me to do is to ask you to stand up. We've done this before. My question is, recognizing this, is this the physique of a Wake Forest athlete? And my question is this a commentary on the quality of Wake Forest athletics or an example of the effects of age and ice cream on an individual's body?
I was a lot taller back then.
As you know, Allan and Patty met at Wake Forest, and David and Jamie, 2 of their children, also went there. Darrell, who was indoctrinated by Uncle Scott, at an early age, decided to go to Carolina. And I, of course, determined he was absolutely the brightest of the three children. One Sunday morning, after a Wake Forest football victory, a rare one I might say, our minister, a Carolina fan, found a note in the pulpit which read, "If God is not a demon deacon, why is the Bible black and gold?" While the note was anonymous, many of us knew who that was that had produced that note on in the pulpit. Another of Allan's really great qualities is his inclusiveness. That is to say, his ability to bring those around him together in whatever activity he's involved in. You see that in his work at the Bar Association with staff and with volunteers. He just has a way of making people feel like they're a part of whatever he's doing. A great example of this, and I've used this before, is on one of our ASP trips. There was a teenage boy at one of the homes that he was working on. The child was loud and disruptive. In truth, he probably wanted to be a part of the group, but just didn't know how to do that. Over the week, Allan worked with this young person, trying to make him feel a part of it. At the end of the week, he joined the group when they stopped for lunch. When it was time for the devotional, this young person took out a well-worn Bible, read a part of the scripture lesson, and I just don't think anybody but Allan could have done something like that. Again, great, just one of many examples of how he brings people together. Above all else, Allan is devoted to his family. He and Patty have done a wonderful job of raising their three children, Daryl, Jamie, and David, and are extremely proud of them, their spouses, and their 4 grandchildren. Allan, you've been a wonderful friend to all of us. We look forward to many more years in the future. Thank you. And you can take off your headband.
I think you overdid it, Gray.
Can I bring out the second set of stories?
As for not being included among the presidents that ran with Allan, I found it tedious to talk to him while he was sitting down, much less while he was running. And I'm not through, Allan. I'm thinking about all this praise that's being heaped upon you, and I remember when I was retiring from Lawyers Mutual, you wanted to have a little tribute to me, and I said I didn't want it, and you talked me into it, and then you presented a plaque to my wife that said, "Poor Carolyn," which is hanging on the wall in the kitchen, and she doesn't even speak now when I disagree with her. She just points to it. It's my pleasure now to introduce as our final speaker, our final toaster, Charlie Red Barham, whom I have known since I came to Raleigh, which has been a considerable long time ago. Charlie?
With all the bloodletting that has occurred, I believe I understand why Allan would have me speak to you last. Let me say at the outset that I count it a very special privilege to have the opportunity to say a few words of appreciation to one of the more remarkable individuals with whom it's been my privilege to walk a part of life's journey. Others have roasted and toasted him, referred to those personal traits which have allowed him to lead his professional association to uncharted heights. And those achievements have been singular, both in breadth and in quality. And I would be amiss if I did not acknowledge publicly and with appreciation what he has done and continues to do in leading the attorneys of our state, and to acknowledge the stature and influence which he enjoys within the legal profession throughout this state and our nation. What I will focus on briefly tonight is but one aspect of his community leadership as a volunteer, an aspect I know well, and of which I am but one of many beneficiaries. Allan Head has shaped the current vision, mission, and outreach of the Triangle Area YMCA more than any current single volunteer. Today, our YMCA has the largest father-son, father-daughter program in the nation, with some 9,000 fathers, sons, and daughters spending quality time growing together and enriching one another's lives. Allan was one of the very early volunteer leaders of this high-impact program and has been a role model for those who have followed him as chiefs of the Arapaho Nation. But it is about his vision and his leadership as president and board member of the association that I want to share with you tonight. As many of you are aware, the YMCA is at this time in the process of concluding another very successful We Build People campaign, a program that underwrites the association's inner-city work and scholarship support for families and individuals who cannot afford to pay their share of program costs. This We Build People initiative was part of Allan's vision for extending the reach of the Y. Prior to this initiative, the contributed support for the Y was part of an annual membership drive and raised less than $200,000 annually. Now, a little more than a decade later, this program provides over $2.5 million contributed dollars to extend the outreach of YMCA programs. And it is the community support for this visionary program which has permitted the YMCA's youth, after-school, and camping programs to serve more youth each year than any other YMCA in the nation, with the sole exception of the Los Angeles YMCA. Another part of Allan's vision for a greater YMCA was a Christian Emphasis Committee to underscore the C in YMCA and to keep the reason for the mission constantly before the staff and the membership. The most visible sign of the impact of this committee is the annual community prayer breakfast, attended by more than 700 people this past year. However, the most profound impact of this committee has been putting Christian principles into practice in the design and the delivery of all of the YMCA programs. Another focus of Allan's leadership was corporate governance, and particularly shared leadership. During his tenure as president of the association, he gave substance to the committee structure, attracting and assigning to the various committees talented people and giving them meaningful responsibility in shaping the affairs of the association. Today, the policy direction of the YMCA comes through this committee structure. Allan's foresight also led to a formalized strategic planning model that anticipates and plans for the growth of the association. He envisioned a broader service area than the YMCA historically served and tirelessly advocated extending the geographical reach of the association to underserved areas in Wake and surrounding counties. Today, the YMCA has 13 branches in Wake, Durham, Johnston, Lee, and Pamlico counties. These are but a few of the examples of the impact that Allan has had and continues to have upon an organization which last year served over 100,000 adults and youth through meaningful programs and is today the 14th largest YMCA in our nation. When others would ask why, Allan would say, "Why not?" So I'm privileged to join in the salute to the one that we honor tonight, a man who has never been comfortable with things as they are, and who continues to give so much to so many within his profession and in the community, my friend, Allan Head.
After Charlie's very warm and glowing comments about Allan, I hate to say this, but I am reminded before he gets up to speak that whenever I had an opportunity to talk at a bar meeting, there would always be Allan leaning over and whispering into my ear, 2 minutes is good, but 1 is better.
I did say that. Ed Gaskins has a guest. Those of you who attend our monthly luncheons or laughed at that. Those of you who don't, that's one of my honors, is I get to help people present guests. For the fellow who enjoys wearing a sport jacket and slacks more than anything else, I hope you've noticed that I'm wearing my funeral suit tonight. Appropriately, I think, anticipating a somber event. First, I'd like to thank my running buddy of 30 years, Gray Hutchison, for his remarks, some of which were true. Then I'd like to thank YMCA past president Red Barham and ABA past president A.P. Carlton for their remarks, most of which were true. And then I'd like to thank North Carolina Bar Association past president John Beard for his remarks, most of which are not true. Seriously, John, thank you for being kind to me tonight. Next, I'd like to thank 2 important women in my life. First, it's been mentioned, my wonderful wife of at least 36 years, it may be 37, it's 37. Who's the mother of our 3 great kids, all that you've heard about, 4 wonderful grandchildren, and we're rejoicing in that. And they call her Mimi, they call me Opa. And Patty, would you please stand? Now that she's become an elected public official, I'm frequently referred to as Mr. Patty Head. And I'm comfortable with that. We get mail like that, we get calls like that, and I can handle that. After all she's done for me in my career, it's the least I can do is support her, and so I'm very proud that she's a member of our Wake County School Board. Second, I'd like to recognize my long suffering of 17 years and ever so loyal and very capable assistant, executive assistant, I should say, Kim Vaughn. Kim, would you please stand? Some insiders refer to her as the real executive director, and that's deserved. Most of you know that I love my job and I love coming to work every day, and I'd like to, at this time, ask, and I know a number of these folks are here, North Carolina Bar Association past presidents, current and past officers, and members of the Board of Governors, if you are present, would you please stand and remain standing for just a second? Would y'all? I know some of you are here. Please. It's going to embarrass me if not all of you left. Current and past, please stand. These folks represent a lot to me. They represent over 700 officers that I have worked with and for during the last 30 years, and they represent the finest in our profession. And it's an honor for me to serve as the executive director of the North Carolina Bar Association, and I just wanted to thank y'all. At your place tonight is a small booklet entitled Head Notes. It's a compilation of thoughts that I collected over 30 years, and I wanted to share those with you. They're simple. It's an easy read. I hope you'll enjoy it and maybe get some laughs out of it. So please take it home with you. And lastly, I'd like to thank the Wake County Bar Association for selecting me as the honoree tonight. However, it's me. I'm the one that's honored to have served as the treasurer of the Wake County Bar for the last 25 years, as you've heard, and to have been a member of one of the very best bars in America. And I know who are the very best state and local bars in America, and we certainly have one here in Wake County. Thank you, Terry and George and Alice. Where's Alice? Our wonderful executive director, way in the back, for your leadership. In closing, doesn't that sound good? Thank you all for coming tonight, for contributing to a very good cause, and for honoring me. Every day, I like to say this, every day is a great day to be a lawyer. Some days are greater than others. Today was a great day for me. I'm proud to be the executive director of the North Carolina Bar Association. I'm proud to be a member of the Wake County Bar Association, and I'm always proud to be a lawyer.
I'm Bill Bystrinsky. I have the privilege of being the chairman of the Wake County Bar Association Scholarship Committee, who is the beneficiary of tonight's festivities. I've had the privilege of being on this committee and helping to choose the folks who get these scholarships for the past 10 years. And in that time, we have given scholarships to folks who are raising families while they're going to law school, folks who are working 2 jobs while they're going to law school, folks who are at the very top of their class and working hard, folks who are giving tremendous amounts of time to the community while they go to law school. We have had some very, very talented students that we have been able to help. And on behalf of those students and on behalf of the committee, I want to thank all of you for taking the time out to come out tonight to support our efforts and also to honor Allan. And thank you all very much. I'd like to thank all the sponsors of the event tonight and for all who've contributed to it. But I particularly want to recognize 2 folks without whom this could not have happened and have worked behind the scenes very, very diligently to make this happen. And that would be our Executive Director, Alice Roman, and our President, Terry Gardner. And now I'd like to thank Allan in particular for putting up with being roasted tonight. And if you would come forward, Allan.
It is. It is a one. It's only one, though.
I thought it was a bowling ball. On behalf of the Wake County Bar Association, I would like to present you with this plaque, which says, presented to Allan B. Head for his outstanding dedication and commitment to lawyers and citizens of Wake County. Wake County Bar Association, October 28, 2004.
Thank you, Bill.
And I'd also, on behalf of the Bar Association, I'd also like to give you this small token of our appreciation.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Allan.
Okay.
I would just like to wrap up by thanking everyone for attending tonight. This year has been a great year for me as president, and this gala was something that was very important to me, largely because I admire Allan so much, and it was such a joy to work to bring this together for him. Ever since I was a young lawyer and met Allan, he knew who I was, he remembered my name, he's always been so positive. He's such a positive influence to the lawyers of this state, and he's always been one to me. And I'm so proud of him, and it was just worth every minute of the effort, and I really appreciate you all coming. I guess last but not least, we're going to give away our prizes from RBC, so let's do that. And also, I would like to thank the wives of Red Barham and Gray Hutchison for coming tonight. They're sitting here at the table. And Jane Weathers from the North Carolina Bar Association are here as well. And who else is here from the bar? Kay Barber. So thank you all for coming as well to help us honor Allan. And Allan, would you like to draw?
Okay.
We'll let Allan pick the lucky winners.
Okay.
The first winner, Bill Lawton.
All right. Good job.
Bill, I got a speeding ticket recently. I feel like
I remember saying how lucky you were going to be. Good man.
I've got a great lawyer. She's here tonight. Thank you, Ann.
And Christian.
Wonderful.
That's Allan's lawyer. I know, great. Again, thank everyone so much. Thank you very, very much. I hope you enjoyed the evening.